Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today guys, we are jumping down into the charts to take a look at what has been going on most recently with Zilliqa. As I get into this video, if you do find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. If you haven't yet joined us in Discord, links in the description down below. Fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. Right, let's jump on down into Zilliqa here and see what's been going on. Right, so obviously I'm just on the daily chart and we are paired up with USDT, and what I want to do is just kind of talk you through this structure here on our daily chart before we jump down into the kind of the micro movements. Okay, so in fact I might just first of all jump on out into our weekly, because we do have an impulsive move here, going back to March 2020. Wave 1 effectively completed on our weekly chart here around June of 2020, then pulled back down into actually a really conservative wave 2. And this actually would normally, from Elliott wave theory, expect to be at least 50% or more, but here obviously in crypto we don't necessarily follow the rules exactly, and it's more of a guidance. But essentially what we've got is a really shallow wave 2, which you wouldn't normally expect to see. Wave 2 would normally be quite deep, and as a part of that you actually saw wave 4 being deep. These two things sometimes actually have an alternation to them, so just bear in mind that sometimes wave 2 is actually the deeper one, with wave 4 being the shallower one. But here for Zilliqa you actually have it the opposite way around, and pretty much most altcoins as well, with the exception of Bitcoin, have pretty much gone with a shallow wave 2 and a deeper wave 4. But essentially we had wave 2, this kind of bottomed out around September of 2020, then we went into 2021 in a really strong way, really set out this third wave high in a really good way. This is about 25.6 cent. 25.691 was the all-time high here for Zilliqa, right, on our weekly chart. This then led us down into a fourth wave correction, and as I said, normally the fourth wave correction would be maybe a 38.2% retracement, maybe a little bit deeper than that, but you don't normally see it in a massive way. Normally that would be a wave 2. Essentially what we've got though is a really deep wave 4 here, bringing us down really deep here. Now, if I actually show you the percentage losses on this, and it's understandable why people were calling this a bear market, mind, but it was 87%, right? And that is pretty much bear market territory. But essentially what you had is that level of retracement should have happened over here, but because it didn't, you actually have it in the opposite way around. But essentially that's fine, and I've spoken about that a while back, I think like way over here when we were actually experiencing the initial pullbacks here. So we've seen the ABC, right? It's actually a pretty standard correction here for Zilliqa, right? It's just a standard ABC that's taken quite a long time to actually play out. But what you've got now is really good traction moving back on up. And something that we would note was similar with wave 1 when we actually got this initial breakout out of the March 2020 lows, right? So we've got a really good kind of structure moving on out of here, and that structure is what I want to talk about, because what it leads to is a really good high points for that fifth wave, right? So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to just grab hold of a Fibonacci retracement tool, and I'm going to show you a couple of things here on our weekly chart. Before we go into the smaller time frames, right? So we've got some really good key areas, right? And there's a couple of different ways you can measure the fifth waves, and Zilliqa's actually doing some crazy things on the hourly chart regarding the fifth wave. But I'm going to go through what you would expect to find on this weekly chart, right? There's three key areas. This is essentially the 1.236, the 1.382, and the 1.618. Okay, so what you've got here is essentially 41.5, 55.9, and 90.6. Those are the areas that you would expect to find ourselves going to with a fifth wave, right? And so if you go past, and you can go past the 1.618, then there's alternative ways of measuring. So if I go ahead and actually delete that Fibonacci, the alternative way is actually to take a measurement from the top of wave 3 to the bottom of wave 1, grab hold of that and move it to the bottom of your wave 4, and your target essentially does become up here at that 0.618. Now, since that's actually lower, I don't think you're going to have that measurement at all work out for us. So instead, we should be thinking around that $90 to $1 range with that 1.618. I think it's incredibly unlikely that we're going to go to a 2.618. So we're probably going to be in and around this 1.618 by the time we finished, in my opinion. So this fifth wave will be somewhere in this range. And if this is a wave 1, wave 1 cannot be the shortest sorry, it cannot be the longest wave, right? So this is actually really good traction, because what I think is actually going on here is this is wave 1, which will have some kind of pullback for wave 2. Again, we would expect wave 2 to be the deeper one out of the 2 corrective moves, and then a wave 3, right? And it could be well possible that wave 3 which should be the longest one. And then we have this kind of move here, taking us to some highs that we didn't think was possible before, right? So again, it's subjected to wherever these things land. But this is being our wave 1 move on our weekly chart. It's actually given us a lot of encouragement, because essentially this is a fantastic move for Zilliqa that could lead us into some really, really good traction later on. Okay, so with that foundation placed, I will just remove the fib. I'm going to come down into our daily chart. Now, as I said, here we have 5 waves, right? 5 waves inside of our weekly wave 1, potentially. So this is actually looking pretty good. It starts from this low point down here at 3.2 cent, and we've obviously gone up to about 22 cent. Now, that 22 cent is an area that's above and beyond the 1.618. I think it's actually like a 3.618. So I will just check that in a moment. But essentially, you get the structure here for 5 waves going up, and we are now kind of coming to completion of that final 5th wave, and we should be starting to think about some kind of corrective move, which will be a wave 2. Wave 2 is normally at least 50% if you follow the standard rules or guidance. So, it could potentially be quite deep. If it's shallow, then we'd expect a deeper wave to occur later on, like I explained earlier. So with all that, let's jump on down into our hourly chart, right? Because this is where we're getting the sub wave counts of our larger daily moves, right? So we can see here we have wave 3, wave 4, and wave 5, right? And wave 5's actually come up here at the moment to about 22 cent. Now, obviously inside, we want to be counting these sub wave counts that we had done previously. We've got 5 waves inside here, for example, moving up inside our wave 3, and so far we've actually done incredibly well, right? So let's actually just go ahead and dissect this down a little bit, because I think this overall larger daily 5th wave might actually continue for a little bit longer yet. So what we want to do is we just want to kind of track ourselves in here and see, what's going on. So this seems to be a correction wave just inside here, which is fine. So I can mark that up. We obviously have corrections here and here as well, and I think this is potentially also a bit of a correction. What will be interesting to see is how short of a correction that is, because I do think we're gearing up for another move slightly, but it's high risk at this point. In here we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down. This could potentially be 1, 2, 3, this being our 3rd wave high, 4th wave coming down, and a 5th wave going higher. So yeah, I don't think Zilliqa's stopping yet. So if I actually just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there, and then we go a couple of options here. What have we got? Probably this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with the 5th one being overextended, and then we've got 1, 2, and potentially some kind of play here that might be triangular in its nature. It might be an E, something that hasn't actually finished yet. So let's go ahead and bring back that stochastic. So we have basically an oversold hourly stochastic, so we should be thinking movements up. When we're on the 4 hourly, we're overbought. On the 8 hourly, not overbought just yet, and the daily already is. So we are thinking there's probably some kind of potential for a last little push here, but I wouldn't expect it to go too high. We'd probably be, if we're anything, maybe setting a new all-time high before we actually have the correction for the wave 2. You'll find that this will be an area of resistance quite a bit here for Zilliqa. Essentially, yeah, we might want to see this as a bit of an ABC, pull back down a little bit lower. So I'll throw it out there as a possible option. But at this stage, it might not be the case, but we could pull back to about 18.6 on an ABC before we start moving up again into the new all-time high. But I don't think it's going to be too much. If we actually find support here on this green line at about 18.9, but 18.6 would be a 1-to-1 ratio. Possible that we do get that last little move there. So I'd be curious to see if that does play out for Zil. But again, we're in higher risk territory right now. But I would be saying that there's something there, potentially that 5th wave coming in at new all-time high area. And then I think we'll be ushering in that 2nd wave correction overall. So essentially, we're doing really, really good work here with Zil. Just to kind of summarize, I'm expecting some kind of short-term burst upwards again, and then from there, that should complete our daily moves of these 5 waves. These 5 waves actually account to a weekly wave 1. This then brings us back down. Now, again, we probably don't want to be closing here. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to close above this yellow box. This yellow box area is above the 786 of this retracement zone. So we wouldn't want to necessarily close above there and then see some kind of pullback. If anything, because of this particular location and what the significance of the 786 is on this entire retracement, I think it's very unlikely that we'll close in there this weekly candle. So I think that will just end up being a wick, meaning that we pull back down. If we do close up here, then, you know, I think will be potentially moving up higher because of the significance of this close. So one to watch out for. To be fair, I would expect pullback down, specifically with everything that's going on fundamentally. Usually you get all the hype beforehand, and then on the event you would, on the launch of the metaverse, this will be, you'd get the actual pull back as people take profits off the table, right? Buy the rumor, sell the news. I think that's what they say. So essentially that's what I'm expecting. I wouldn't expect it to close here. If you do close above this 786, and I think that will trigger more FOMO coming in, which I don't think is necessarily going to actually align to structure at that point. So we want to be kind of, you know, open to the idea that actually we're getting close to completing this move, whether we wick up, pull back down on this weekly chart, have the second wave correction, and then we get the better structure going further forward. It's better to have short-term pain for long-term gain than it is to have short-term gain and long-term pain. So again, you know, we want to be quite mindful over all of that. So essentially, yeah, that's kind of where I think we are with ZIL. I think it's doing incredibly well, and we should still be on our targets for everything we've been talking about over the last year and a half or so with ZIL. So guys, if you have found this useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.